Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your Elddis autoquest. It's a 100. Can't see a sticker from there, but yeah. So, under the bonnet here we've got your washer fluid over on this top left. Power steering fluid under this cap just here. Engine coolant sits in here. We've just driven this back from the MOT station, so it is hot, the engine at the moment, so that's why it's slightly above the max line. But if you want to check it properly, you need to wait for the engine to cool down and then check it when it's cold. Brake fluid is in this reservoir up here at the top, and that's attached to the servo just down the back, just there behind it. And you've got your cylinder just here underneath. Engine oil goes in through this cap just here at the top, and you can see there no kind of white or creamy looking stuff on it. It's all just kind of nice clean oil. Engine oil dipstick is this one here at the front of the yellow top. Just make sure that went on properly. Yeah. So you've got a couple of chassis plates here at the front. So you've got your original chassis plate here, which is the actual Peugeot. So you see it says Automobiles Peugeot. So this is the original chassis plate that came with this base vehicle before it was converted. And then you've got this one here, which is the one that you actually should go off, which is the one that's been done since it's been converted. So it would have been sort of uprated, downplated, whatever. Your paint code, you can't quite see it on this sticker, but it is 249. That's just a standard Fiat Peugeot white. That's it. So you've got your engine battery sits under the floor in the cab in this particular style of chassis. So just in front of the passenger seat, you'll see there's a bit of a notch out in the floor, and that's where you get to your engine battery. If you want to jump start the vehicle, you've got your positive terminal just here under this cap, and your negative terminal here for jump starting. So it does say that here, only for jump start, and that's so basically positive onto here, negative onto here, or in fact if you can't get sometimes the negative clamps are a little bit big for this, so if you can't get it onto there, you can just basically find any other negative kind of, or earthing point. So down there, that little engine mount would be good. Anywhere like that really, any sort of decent piece of metal. There will be an engine hoist point as well. Oh, they're down there, look. So that'd be a good earth. If you can't get it to grip on here very well, but this is your earthing point. So that's what that is. Fuel filter sits down the back just there, and you can adjust your headlights just from the back here and get to your bulbs and things. Inside the passenger door, bonnet release is there. So you do actually have to have the passenger door open to do that. So it's like a safety thing really. Tyre pressures just here. And it is correct, just in case you were wondering. I know cars are more like sort of 30 or 40, but the motorhomes are a lot higher. So you've got 72 at the front, 79 at the back. So that's not a mistake. Your fuel goes in here, so this is diesel obviously. You will need your ignition key to go into that to open it. This locker just to the, just behind that there, you've got your hookup point in there, and your leisure battery sits inside there. It's quite a good sized leisure battery. The idea of these specific cupboards is that you can put your hookup cable in and then still close the cupboard up, because you've got this gap down here. So you can actually still fully close the cupboard and lock it if you want to, with the hookup plugged in. So basically, if you're going to leave the hookup, if you're going to leave the van on your front driveway or whatever, you can leave the hookup in so your battery keeps on topped up all the time, and you can leave the van because you can lock this cupboard up so no one's going to be able to take that cable out. So really clever idea there. Autoquest and Elddis, they do tend to do that on all of their vans. So that's that. Like I said, your leisure battery is there. You've got negative terminal at the back there on the left, positive on the right. To get this out, if you ever needed to, you literally just pull this cable out like this and then release it from here, and then you can just pull this whole thing. It's like a big tray basically. So if I pull that out, you can see it's just going to come out there. Push it back, I've got 2 hands. I'll have to do that in a minute. I've got 1 hand. But yeah, you basically loosen that off and then you can pull the whole battery out, so it's nice and easy. A little external aerial point here, if you should ever need it. Your boiler vent is this one here, so it's a Truma boiler, and you can see there, so basically I've just taken this off just to show you. Put it back on, hook it over the top and just push it at the bottom. So it is as easy as that. That is just something you need to do. You don't need to do that when you're driving and stuff, but it is kind of like good practice to do it. The only sort of downside to it is that you really need to make sure that you take it off before you start trying to use it again, because otherwise it won't work. So if you're going to use the boiler, just double check that this is definitely off first. Your step is electric. So if I push up on this button here, goes in and then back out nice and easily. Your wastewater drain is this one just down here. So this is your grey waste. So anything that goes down any plug hole in the entire vehicle comes out from here. It's in the open position at the moment. You can turn it to closed if you want to. So the only thing that doesn't go down into that is your toilet waste, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, that's where you drain out your wastewater. So that's your shower water, sink water, whatever. The fridge is just behind these 2 vents here, but these 2 vents are for the fridge. If you have the fridge lit up on gas, you should be able to feel some hot air coming out through the top of this vent just here. It's just a way of double checking that it's working, but basically, I'll take that off. That is the exhaust for the sort of gas burner of your fridge. So it comes up from the bottom down there, all the way up, and comes out just there. So that's why you can feel the heat coming out. A little nodule at the top to locate. That's it. Bike rack at the back, you've got your 2 rungs with all 4 of the tyre sort of clamps, and you've got these 2 bits at the top as well, which grip onto the top of the bike, obviously. So that's all there, as it should be. On the off side now then, we've got your toilet locker. So this top part here is where you fill up your pink fluid. And pink fluid is for your flush. So it's basically works like a U-bend. So it goes in there, goes up and round, and then goes up. So essentially, what will happen is it's a bit low at the moment because it's not got anything in this little pipe. But it looks like it's full here. All right, so that's why it's a bit confusing because it's on a U-bend. But basically, if you start filling this up, you'll notice that it won't come up over the top. It'll just stay at that level. And then what'll happen is you'll just see this start to raise up here. So I'll do this after the video. I'll make sure that's filled up. But when you pour it in, like I said, it won't just, that's not it at its fullest. It will just keep on going at that same level until you get it to where you want it here. So you want it about halfway up. So like I said, that's your flush fluid. So that flush fluid's got nothing to do with the dirty waste in the actual cassette, all right? So that's nice and clean. The actual cassette itself, lift up on this little green tab, and then the entire thing pulls out towards you. You've got a bench seat toilet in this one because you've got the longer style cassette. So the only things you really need to know is you've got this flap just here, which is the one that you'll be able to see when you actually go to the toilet inside. You need to try and keep this lubricated with some kind of rubber sealant, or rubber lubricant, sorry. But you can see we've done there already, so you can see it's nice and sort of lubricated. It's quite simple. You literally just some kind of like silicone spray or anything like that, just to keep that going every once in a while, so that you can do this easier, basically. That is what opens up when you actually open the toilet from the inside, which I'll show you how to do as well. But basically, empty it out from here. Your blue fluid goes inside here once you've finished. And when you take this cap off, you'll notice that it's got some measurements on it. And so basically, you put 1 full capful, or 2 actually maybe, because it's quite a big cassette, back into the cassette itself after you've emptied it. Just give it a swoosh around and then put it back in. So pushing it back in, that is it. So it's gone over its little bit there. It won't come out. That is literally it. So I'm going to leave that open so I don't forget. But yeah, nice and easy. Your freshwater drain is this one here, so that's the blue one. Now again, you can turn that off so that when you fill the van up with water, it won't just drain it straight out, which is obviously not what you want. So you're going to leave that closed until you actually want to get rid of the water. And obviously we've been going around emptying out all of the boilers and all the water systems because it's been getting quite cold, which is another point I want to get to really. If you are going to have this van throughout the winter months, which obviously you are because you're going to be getting it soon, you need to make sure that you drain any water out from the van before it gets to that point of maybe freezing. If you leave the fresh tank and the boiler full of water and it freezes, what will happen is it will expand, it will crack, and then you'll get leaks all over the place. Because as the water freezes, it'll obviously expand, and then any kind of pressurized pipes will just crack, or normally the fittings actually, they will just crack or let water by, and then you're in sort of a world of trouble really, because it's just, they don't exactly make it easy for us to get to the pipes and things in these motorhomes. So just something to bear in mind. So your freshwater inlet is this one here. Now you've basically got, instead of having just a hole in the side where you can take a cap off and fill it up like that, you've got, it's quite a good idea actually. It's basically, you've got something that plugs into there, it pushes in, you've got power either side here on these little sort of like copper pieces, and a hole there for the water to go in. So basically you put your point on it, and then that drops down, and you can basically fill it up from one of the roll away fresh tanks. So it's probably a good idea to get yourself one of them. You fill it up with water wherever you can, then you can roll it back towards your vehicle. It basically means that you can fill the van up with water without having a hose point. Otherwise, pretty much the only way to fill them up is with a hose, and that, you know, that is quite normal. I mean, like for example on this one here, this is the only way to fill the fresh water up, through there. All right. Whereas with you can fill your tank up and take it wherever you, so you could be completely in the middle of nowhere. You can fill the tank up wherever you know there's a water point somewhere, roll it back to your van, drop your pump into it, and it'll fill the van up, if that makes sense. So it just gives you, you know, it means you can just basically get fresh water anywhere you want. There is also another, if you do have a hose available, you can plug it in and get a fitting that will then plug into there and then onto a hose. So you can still fill it up via a hose, but it's just up to you how you want to do it really. But to be honest, it's a lot less difficult than it sounds. It's nice and easy. Gas locker. So we've got a sticker on the front of this cupboard here. So you have got, this is a 6 kilo propane bottle. It's a light, so, well, for obvious reasons, it's a lot lighter than the standard bottles, but they work just as well. Turning the bottle on is anti-clockwise round to the left, like that. And that's about it really, that's all you need to know. Obviously turning it off is the other way. If you want to take this pigtail off and replace it, because you've got 5 years on these pigtails, so what have we got on a 2021, so you've got till 26 to replace this hose, but it's actually a hand wheel hose, so all you have to do is just literally turn it round to the left, or round to the right, sorry, and that takes it off. Alright, so you just keep going and going until it comes off, pop it onto your new bottle, and then you're good to go. So that's your gas locker. In the cab itself, it's pretty straightforward really. You've got the original Peugeot radio system in there. All of your heater controls are these ones just here in the middle. So, you know, they're so nice and easy to work out. It's pretty simple stuff. Hazard lights there in the middle. You can lock and unlock the cab from inside, which is quite helpful actually. When you start using the vehicle, you'll realise that, you know, you don't want to have the keys somewhere all the time, and you don't want to have to get out of the vehicle to lock it, and you don't, you know, all that sort of stuff. So you can just literally lean through from the back and lock it up if you want to. Your lights are on this left-hand stalk here, as well as your indicators obviously, and your washers and wipers on the right. You have got the electric adjusting mirrors, which they don't all have. So you can basically just choose which mirror you want to move, and then move it up and down, left or right, wherever you want to, and that'll just do, you know, exactly what you tell it to do. Electric windows, that's about it really for the cab. Like I said, your battery does sit there just about where that foot, you know, thank you sheet is. It's really easy to get to. All you really need is a big flathead screwdriver, and then you can just take all of the little circle bits out. But yeah, it's nice and simple. Reversing camera, so that'll only come on when you've got ignition power on, which means that you can't drain your battery out via that camera. So when you turn the power on, that camera should come alive. But like I said, that is the best way to do it, because if you had it so that it was powered up constantly, even if it wasn't physically on, it will still be drawing a little bit of power. So over a period of, you know, a couple of weeks or so, it would just drain out your engine battery regardless. So having it wired up to a 12-volt live feed is much, much better, which it is. So in the back here, the first thing I want to show you, autoquests are sort of renowned for this. So you get into the vehicle, you come in, you try and, you know, use some things up here, whatever, and for example, nothing works. All right, you go up here, you just can't get anything to work. It'll be because you've got a 12-volt isolator down here. So if I just turn that off now, I've just turned it off, I'll show you. When we go on aux, which is your leisure battery, absolutely nothing at all. Pump, you know, all of that, we got nothing. Vehicle, aux, nothing at all. So if you are going to leave the vehicle for a period of time, it's always good practice to turn this off, because it will basically save your leisure battery out there from going flat. Same idea as the camera there. Having an isolator just means that anything at all, even if it's not on, anything at all that is wired up to that battery, there's no way of it draining it out. All right, so that is always a good thing to know with the autoquests. So now if I go up to aux, which is your leisure battery, which is the one that you want to use, you go up, and then what we got, like 13 volts. So that's absolutely perfect. So the reason you want to use the aux battery is because if you went down to vehicle, you've still got nearly 13 volts in it, and it will still power things. So if I go around, turn the lights on, this light right here, and any other light that I want to turn on, is currently being powered by the engine battery in the cab. All right, so, you know, that's fine, but if you leave that on all day, your battery level is going to go right the way down, and you won't be able to start the engine anymore, because you would have flattened it with the lights. So you need to make sure, if you are going to use lights or anything at all that I'm going to show you here, you need to be up on aux battery. All right, so that's your leisure battery. So all the time that you're on one of these, it will be showing you a certain voltage at the top here on this top scale. So at the moment, we're on the aux battery, and we've got just underneath 13 volts. So a resting battery rate, as long as there's no, I don't think there's a solar panel, but I'm not entirely sure. Any sort of resting battery rate is good to be at about 12 volts. So that being there, nearly 13, is absolutely brilliant, really. Right, so the next one along is the bottom scale, and that will show you your fresh water level. Okay, so if I do that, empty. So that would make sense because the freshwater drain was open when we got to it. Pump, there's that one there. Obviously, it's empty, so I'm going to turn that off because it won't do anything at all. So it's always good to have that light there as well. So basically, when you turn that pump switch on, it will only ever come on here. This light will only ever come on if the pump is actually on and running. If you have the switch on and the pump gets the pressure, that light should go off. Okay. So the idea is fill your van up with water, and then turn that pump switch on, come over here to your tap, and then you just basically need to pour the water through on the hot side and then the cold. All right, if that makes sense. So fill the water tank up, turn your pump on, and then just basically pull the tap on the hot side. What will happen is, when you do that, at the moment, because the boiler is completely empty of water, the boiler will be filled up first before anything else happens, okay? As long as you're trying to fill up the hot side. So the cold side is completely different. So you've got a tank under here, obviously just about here, I think, where you fill your fresh water up from. And then if you basically pull the cold side of the tap, essentially what happens is it just draws water straight from there through the pump and then to your tap. All right, if you're on the cold side, which is the right hand side. Okay, so that's the cold side, straight forward, you know, just literally draw water from the tank, that's it. But the hot side, if you put it to the left and use the hot, the pump still draws water straight from the fresh tank, but it goes through the boiler first. So until that boiler is full up, you will not get water coming through this tap. All right, even if the pump's running and doing all the right things, until the boiler's full, it won't do anything. So if you want to do that and you want to start from scratch and fill the boiler up and all that sort of thing, you need to find where the drain is, which is there. So the little yellow tab there that's facing upright, you need to drop that so it's flat and then pull the hot water side, and it will basically just start filling up the boiler there. All the time that flap is upright like it is now, any water that goes to it will just go straight onto the floor. Okay, so drop that to its flat position. I'm going to do that now actually, like that, because I know it's empty at the moment anyway. So when you first get to using the van, my advice would be, like I said, fill the fresh water tank up, turn your pump on, and then just use that tap over there, just leave it in the open position on the hot side. Okay, so you will probably hear the pump will just be going and going and going. You'll probably start hearing some bubbling going on down there in the boiler, which is just the sound of it filling up. All right, but I'm going to leave that in the closed position now because I know it's empty of water, so there's nothing can go wrong with it. But like I said to you outside, it's just because we know that it's going to be getting really cold soon. So we've been going around draining out all the boilers, because really the boilers are the most important part. If there was pressurized water in these pipes just here, all of these little white John Guest fittings would essentially, when the water freezes inside of them, they just fill up and crack, and then you just have leaks all over the place. So you need to make sure you drain that all out before it gets too cold. Whilst we're down here, you have got your 12 volt fuses there on the left hand side. They do tell you exactly which ones do which and what size they should be on the left. So if anything at all stops working on you, like the lights or fridge, whatever, you can have a look in there and just make sure they're all okay. And you've also got your 240 volt RCDs and MCBs as well. So basically, if you had a hookup plugged into the vehicle and nothing was working, you'd have a little look in here and make sure that your RCD on the right hand side is in the upright position. And also you can see if individual appliances aren't working on the mains, you can have a little look in there and look at the left hand ones. So that's all of that stuff there. Okay, so I realise, by the way, this is quite a long video, but there's quite a lot to show you. So right, so you've got a mains socket here, a 12 volt point here, and a TV socket there. And obviously you've got the TV here already, so that is all nice and easy to use. You can just literally plug it in there and go for it. In this cupboard here, as asked, you've got your extra socket and 12 volt point in there, in the cupboard where your TV aerial booster is. I'm going to drop this down because I know it's in the upright position at the moment. So drop that down. Where it needs to be. I'll have a look on the outside in a minute. But basically, you just do what I just showed you there. So loosen off this part at the top, and then you can push this up and tilt and turn it wherever you want to put it. So that's how you actually receive the signal. That then comes through this wire into the booster, turn the booster on, and then plug it into your aerial point in there. Okay, so that really is nice and easy. So if you want to heat the water up in the vehicle, they make it nice and easy. They lay it out nice and easily in these autoquests. If you want to heat the water up, bearing in mind you've already filled the boiler up, so you cannot do any of this before you fill that boiler up in the way that I just showed you over there. Assuming you've done that already, if you have a hookup plugged into the vehicle, you can press this button on here. There's no light on it or anything like that, so you know, you can just trust that it's working, because obviously we've done our habitation check on it. Turn that button on there, and essentially what will happen is the water inside that boiler will get heated up via an electric element. Okay, so that's when your electric hookup is in only. You need to make sure that you turn this off once you finish with it, because if you plug a hookup into the vehicle and forget that this is on, then you know, you can imagine if there's no water in it, then it's going to, you know, overheat. If you don't have electric hookup plugged in and you do have gas, you can heat the water up via this as well. So that has lit straight up. I just heard it straight away. So at the moment, the boiler, like I said before, is empty. So I'm not going to leave this gas flame on any longer than that, because you know, you shouldn't use it at all if the boiler is empty. So that's just like literally turning it around on the outside. If you, again, if you have an electric hookup plugged into the vehicle, then basically this is the way that you use it on the heating on the mains. So these two at the top are slightly different to these two. It's not the same as electric gas. These two are both electric. Okay, these are both to do with the electric. So if you want to, so it's all this unit down here. All right, it's all to do with that. But if you have a hookup plugged into the vehicle, you can turn this switch on here and then go to this one here. So this is basically an isolator for this. All right, so you turn that on and then you come to here and choose either 500, 1000 or 2000 watts. So I would always recommend using about 1000. I wouldn't use 2000 because it draws about 8 amps of power. And if you imagine, if you're plugged into a standard kind of 10 amp pole on a campsite, if you use 2000 watts at 8 amps, then you're pretty much using all of your power just on one thing. So that means if you turn your water heater on, actually, that's true. So if you're on a 10 amp pole and you're on 2000 up here, you'd be drawing 8 amps from that. And then if you turn this water heater on mains, that draws about 2.5, 3 amps. So you would blow the pole. It would be too much power. So if you just use 1000, that uses about 4.5 amps. And then you can use a water heater, you can use a fridge on mains, you haven't got to worry so much. So that'd be my suggestion. But basically, electric heater on, and then you can choose how much power you want this to use to heat up. All right. So that's how you use all of that sort of stuff up there. If you want to heat the van up via the gas, it is just as easy. But all you need to do basically is you've got a piezo igniter here. So it sounds a little bit noisy, and they are a little bit noisy, but that is just how they are. So essentially, all you have to do is turn this little knob around here to sort of 2, 3, 4. Push it down. I can't really do it with one hand, but push it down whilst pressing this igniter button. What happens is when you do that, this little hole down here, there's a little sort of peephole for that. When you're holding down on this and pushing down on the igniter, you'll see that a flame will light up down there through that peephole. All right, there is a glass cover behind it, so you're not open to it, but it will light up. And then all that you need to do, once it's lit and you've held it there for a minute or so, turn it around to sort of 8 or 9 or 7 or 8, whatever. Let it go, and then you'll get the main flame kicking in. All right, so I hope that makes sense. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. One hand. Yeah, I can't do it. I would basically, I need to be on my knees there, or so, something so I can actually see I can't see the flame in there. So, but yeah, so basically you turn it down, turn it around to sort of 2 or 3, push down, and whilst you're holding it down, use your igniter. It'll light up, and then just hold it, and then turn it around and let it go at 7 or 8. Okay. Once you've let that go and you've heard or seen the main flame kick in, make sure that it stays on. Just make sure that it stays on. If it doesn't stay on, all you have to do is just push the button down again. Push it and hold it, and then let it go again. Push it and hold it, let it go again. If it takes a few goes, it's completely normal, especially in the colder weather. The reason it takes a few goes sometimes is because you've got what's called a thermocouple, and if that thermocouple isn't quite hot enough, then it won't allow the gas to carry on coming through. As soon as the thermocouple gets hot enough, you'll have no problems at all. It will just stay on. Okay. over here on the right is your fan for this heater. So whether you're using it on the mains up there or the gas down here, push this little lever to the left and a bit on the front, and then choose 1 to 5 how powerful you want the fan to work. So once you've got that on, you can probably see it actually at the back there. It's just that little circular part at the back. Once you've got that on, you'll feel air pumping around through these little circular vents. All right, there's one over there, one down there. So, you know, it just basically puts the heat that you're creating around the van a lot more sort of, I don't know, well, I know it's only a small van, but if you use the fan heater there, it does make it a lot better. It heats the van up much quicker. So that's your heater. In this wardrobe here, it's not a huge amount to show you. I mean, behind here is obviously all the wiring for all these bits and pieces, so it won't be too pretty, but it's there if you want to see it. This is your awning winder here. So you basically just wind the awning out, drop the legs down and lock them in place. It's nice and simple. But again, there's another one that I can't really show you with one hand. So that's that. The awning and stuff that came with this fan is up here over the bed. If you want to have a little look at that and use it, obviously you can do, it's yours. But we don't tend to take those out really, we just leave them for the customers. Just make sure I'm not going to miss out anything. So the light switch for your bathroom will be this one here. So whatever lights you've got in there, there you go. They're on now. Right, I will get to the bathroom in a minute. So the fridge is really nice and simple, and don't worry, by the way, we haven't gone through and cleaned this yet. Ready to go out. So if you want to light the fridge up on gas, which is the main way to use it really, you go all the way down to the bottom, and then same sort of idea as the heater really. So you've got this little dial over here on the right. Push this in and push this button in. So it's another piezo igniter. So you see there, it goes right up into the green, the little orange lever. I'm still holding this down, but we're right up into the green, so that means that the flame is lit. I'm going to let go of it now. Still right up in the green, and that's it. That's how you light the fridge up on gas. Down to the bottom here, push this one in whilst pressing your piezo igniter, and then just wait for that to go up into the green. All right, so that's how you use it on gas. If you have an electric hookup plugged into the vehicle, you would want to go 1 to the right, which is your hookup 1, and then basically you just leave that. That's it. The gas and the mains are the two that will heat this, or cool the fridge down by themselves. And then once you've done that, if you want to start the engine up and start driving, you need to go 1 more down, so to this little battery symbol here, and that will basically keep the fridge cold anytime that you're driving. When you stop driving and you get to your campsite and you set up, you need to either go back to the gas or the mains again. All right, well, that is how you use a 3-way fridge. So I've shown you your sink. Again, just make sure I'm not missing anything. The wiring there, that'll be for your reversing camera. So that's that. It's the 3-burner hob up here. It's nice and simple. You will need an igniter of some sort to light any 3 of these up. I've got a little diagram showing you which one does which. That's it. You know, pretty simple stuff. You need to make sure that you've left the burners to cool down for a little bit before you put this glass back down as well, by the way. Now, it is proper expensive reinforced glass, but if you put this glass down on top of a burner that you've just turned off, I can pretty much guarantee that this will shatter either way. So just make sure that you leave this up for a little while. It's fine to leave up like that, you know, when you're using it, it doesn't matter, it can get really hot there. But if you put it down on top of something you've just turned off, it's cold on top, hot on the bottom, sorry, and it'll just crack. So really important to leave that up to cool down, at least for a little while. I lied about the igniter thing. I've just seen so a lot of these are different. So you've got this little button down here. You might think that's just to do with this cooker system, but it's actually the ignition for up here as well. So pushing this button here does the ignition for the grill, the oven, and these 3 burners up here. So you push and turn on whichever one you want to use whilst pressing the igniter on. Okay, so that's how you light any of those up. The grill and the oven, I don't even feel like I need to show you because they are just that simple. The one on the left here is for your grill, the one for the right is the oven, and you do quite literally just use it in exactly the same way as I've just shown you on the cooker. All right. Bathroom is nice and simple as well. So you've got your shower up there, which is actually quite nice to have a separate shower because a lot of them will have the sink, the tap for the sink normally pulls out to make up the shower, but it is nice to have the separate shower there, like I said. Sink pulls down like that, and then you basically use your sink like that. It will just drain out through the drain there, put your tap back over there, and then just push this back away. And the toilet, like I said, you've got the bench seat, so it's the bigger, nicer sort of toilet really. To make it work, pull this lever open to drain it into the cassette and put it back to close that flap. Push the button to put your flush fluid around, and like I said, it was quite empty anyway outside, so push there to put the flush fluid round, drain it, and then put it back. All right, so it really is as simple as that in the bathroom. There's not much to it, but yeah, that's it. So I think I've covered everything I can. If there's anything else you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.